So welcome this week's episode of Sauna Twins podcast, Walter Långstedt from Saas Instruments in Finland.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. So tell us a bit about Saas Instruments, who you are, what you do, and how you guys started, and a bit about the business.
Yeah, gladly. So yeah, as you guys say, Saas Instruments, a family-run lighting company from Helsinki, Finland. It's a company that my granddad started in 1978.
Wow.
And then, yeah. And then pretty quickly after that, my dad took over the company, made it into what it is today. Still works as the CEO of the company. I then joined 7 years ago because we wanted to get control of the export market, which was basically non-existent bar Sweden at the time. About how the company became what it is today, we started out by doing fiber optics for the cruising ships that were being built in Helsinki at the time.
Is that like the Viking lines and things like that? Or?
Actually, we did it for Carnival cruises, so the ships that then ended up in America. But we were neighbors, so you could almost argue it was a lucky shot. But on the other hand, it taught us how to make products, and it taught us about quality control in the international market. And I mean, the fiber optics that we started out with is something that we still use specifically in the saunas. And but otherwise, we've of course evolved into LED, and the projects have grown. But yeah.
So you're a third generation member of the company.
I am, yeah. Funny enough, I never got any pressure from the family to join the business, but at some point I thought, been selling my whole life, so interesting to sell something which, technically speaking, is a bit more challenging. So here we are.
Do you have any siblings?
I do, yeah. I had 2 younger brothers, one of which both actually did summer jobs at Saas as well, but I was the only one who continued.
Who stuck it out.
Yeah, exactly. And funny enough, I didn't do that many summer jobs at Saas, so maybe they knew something I didn't.
That's good. So you guys are based right on the quayside, stone's throw away from the famous Oulu sauna, Jasper Pakinen's pet project, and of course next to where they were producing these big cruise liners.
Exactly, yeah, and we did not all of them, but we did parts of the lighting at the Oulu sauna as well. And it's of course a nice place to have as your neighbor, because when you have clients, especially from abroad, coming over, you show them our production, and then you have a nice lunch and a sauna, right next door. So it really gives the proper Finnish, way of life.
Yeah. And so how did Saas get into sauna lighting? And this is something obviously that's becoming a bigger and bigger part of what you guys do.
Yeah, that's true. And at some point, because as I said, our heritage were the fiber optics, and what that essentially means is that you have light in the sauna without having any electricity there. So they're super durable. And since we did this, and since we are a Finnish company, it only felt natural to head in the direction of sauna lighting as well. And that's what we did. To be honest, our portfolio of sauna lights, it's not the broadest one, but the products that we have and we use every day are proven. And of course we come with novelties from time to time, but yeah, we put more emphasis on quality than quantity.
And I guess being a Finnish company, the test bed and use case information you have, I mean, there are many different lighting suppliers out there from across the world, and of course many from China. But it's certainly reassuring to know that lighting produced by a company where all the people who work there regularly use sauna and have exposure to it, as opposed to
That we do.
Yeah. and doing active tests and things.
Yeah, and that highlights the fact that I suppose sauna is an interesting environment to put lights in. Oftentimes they're quite a dark space, so you probably need a bit of lighting. But what are some of the challenges of exposing lights to the conditions within a sauna?
Well, technically speaking, electricity and humid, damp spaces don't go well together. So you'll have people that still to this day tells you that LEDs can't be used in saunas. There was a time when this was actually true, because the cooling of the LEDs just wasn't sufficient enough. But as
the sauna was too hot, essentially.
Exactly. But as the technology of the actual LED chips developed, the possibility to have them in the sauna also became a thing. And but speaking about lighting in sauna, if we go back to the original one, it's a candlelight, isn't it? Saunas didn't have, they had wood burners, electricity wasn't the thing, at least not in Finland at the time. So, a candlelight was the way to light your sauna. And to be honest, not even in Finland, the country of the sauna, do we have any official regulations for what it should be. So we tend to keep our saunas quite dark still. And the light that we do have in the sauna, we try to install in such ways that it doesn't highlight the people sitting inside. It might highlight the place where you are about to sit or the stove itself. But I mean, it's uncomfortable going into a sauna and have a spotlight on you. So we work a lot with indirect lighting.
And that actually ties in quite nicely to your kind of company's motto or slogan, right?
That's true, because the company slogan is protecting darkness. And that comes from the fact that we're from Finland, a place that is
very dark.
Doesn't see the sun.
Exactly. I mean, in the north of Finland, we have about 50 days when the sun never comes up.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, we have 50 days when it never goes down.
Yeah.
So we're talking about huge contrasts here. But the thing about lighting in sauna and everywhere is about making those contrasts, feel safe and comfortable.
And I mean, we see a lot of people talk about parallels between sort of meditative places of worship and the sauna as well. And, the idea of going somewhere to relax, unwind, be present with yourself. You want to be in that slightly parasympathetic state, where you're not, your adrenal response is not high. You're not, it's not a casino, right?
Exactly.
The casinos want it to feel like daytime, really bright daytime all the time. So you're stimulated, you're active, you keep gambling, right? The sauna is the polar opposite of that. And I think that's, a really important point, that less is often more in sauna, and deflecting light. So lots of indirect light, or a little bit of indirect light in terms of just trying to keep it muted.
Yeah, exactly. The light, whatever you do, should always be on your side. So if you're about relaxing, which you would be in this case, the lighting needs to support that. And that's exactly what we're aiming for here.
Yeah.
So that kind of quality as well, to get into that condition. Immediately when you said like a place of religious worship, I started thinking about rows and rows of candles everywhere.
There you go.
Which, the color temperature. So the things that incandesce create light. The how white or blue or orange the color is measured in Kelvin, which is a temperature measurement. So what kind of color temperature do you find is suitable for creating a nice cozy sauna space?
No, you're absolutely right. I would say 3000 Kelvin is considered warm, 4000 medium, and 5000 cold. So we tend to go a step warmer than the 3000 Kelvin at 2700. That makes the wood look a little bit warmer. In some cases, depending on the wood, even orange, which typically matches the burning wood in your stove quite nicely.
Especially when it's deflected off wood. So, 2700 Kelvin direct light is still fairly white, but when you bounce it off, so if it's a indirect, if it's hidden in the backrest or the bench lip, and it bounces off a nice woody color, you get this even deeper, warmer color. And actually, it's something that we have to advise customers who maybe want even more warm lighting, that you go, actually, 2700 bounced off the wood will look a lot warmer.
Yeah, so picture like
Absolutely.
a sauna made with alder. It's going to look really orangey warm.
Yeah.
But I was actually looking into, this is what I do with my spare time. I was researching light bulbs for some, photos and art and stuff on the walls of my house.
Right.
And I learned a whole new measurement beyond color temperature as well. I suppose this is with the advent of LEDs and their accuracy in recreating a full spectrum. They are often dominant in very particular areas, which I learned affects the color rendering of the thing that you're looking at.
CRI, the color rendering index.
Yeah.
Yes, that does play a pivotal role as well, because
explain what it is. So I don't know what this is. I'm sure the listeners are wondering what's the CRI.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll do that. So color rendering index basically means the ability for the light to show the true colors of the surfaces that it hits.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say supermarket or an industrial hall would have lighting with CRI values of about 80, maybe 85, considered relatively low. Then if you go up to 90, it's already high. And if you go to 95, it's considered, museum level, for paintings to really make those colors pop. So we move somewhere between 90 and 95. So the colors of your materials in the sauna will be very close to the truth.
Wow.
I suppose that's important when you're picking your material palette. If you're specifying your dream sauna, and you fall in love with a sample of Western red cedar and all of the fantastic different colours, if suddenly you put it under different lighting conditions, and it might look muddy,
very blue,
that's the thing, isn't it? If you go into a space with bad lighting, you'll notice it. But if you go into a space with good lighting, it will just feel natural.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And we struggle with that with photographing project work that we've done, because to get a nice photo, you need as much light as possible. But when you do that, you often get pictures that end up looking very, very blue and require then a lot of additional post-production. And so there's this weird thing of, and I'm sure, the listeners have had this where they've, a bit of amateur photography at home where you're like, wow, this view is amazing. And then you take a photo and then you show somebody and it just looks like crap.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, photographing light is not easy, and I'm not an expert, but luckily I found one. So we managed to get decent pictures. But you're absolutely right in saying that it does take a lot of editing to make it look
like it really does,
like it does with the eye.
Yeah. The interesting. So just for my lay person's understanding, then, so the CRI is essentially, as much of the wavelength of visible light as possible, so that those colors reflect are then visible. And if you shine a light that is deficient in certain wavelengths, then you're not getting a representative color.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And going back to the comment you had about candles, I've been to quite a few saunas where people just light them, particularly off grid or rural saunas in Finland where they have a jam jar with a tea light inside, for example.
Yeah.
And as beautiful as that is, we know of a number of cases where these saunas have burnt down because of a candle.
Absolutely.
And it's a sad fact when that happens.
It is, yeah. So if you do decide to use candles as your official sauna lighting, be careful out there.
Yeah,
and that's a good topic as well, is the safety considerations of lighting. I'm not sure. Even when people are making just decisions on what to put in their home, they might not be aware of certain safety requirements or something based on what room it's going in. What's the requirements for a sauna for a safe?
No, you're
lighting?
right. I would say the most important thing is to use an electrician that knows what he's doing. When it comes to sauna lighting, there are a couple of things to consider. One being the cables that you use for the actual lights. They need to be silicon cables which are heat resistant. And the electrician, those cables, and the fact that the lights you're using are made for saunas, in other words, have efficient cooling effects. If you tick those 3 boxes, you're already pretty much there.
And how about ingress protection as well? So obviously not everybody has a super steamy sauna, but a lot of people do, and that's getting more and more popular these days. What sort of level of ingress protection would you say is a safe minimum?
For a traditional Finnish sauna, which tends to be relatively dry, IP44 is fine. And then if you have like a steam room, for example, you definitely need to have IP67. But then again, in the traditional Finnish sauna, the IP rating doesn't need to be as high. However, the efficiency of the coolers in the lights need to be on point. On the other hand, a steam room, there's more moisture, but on the other hand, it doesn't get as hot. So there, the IP rating will be of more importance.
I suppose there's still, depending on how people intend to use a sauna, there's always a risk of some areas that will get more water on them than others. So whilst the atmospheric conditions in there might be okay, if you're maybe putting some lighting in the benches, then anyone just come from a nice Finnish lake after gone for a swim and they're going back in the sauna, they'll be dripping water off them that will run through the benches.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to consider what lights you use where, what sort of IP rating they have both on the front and the back. So yeah, absolutely. But again, of course, we are always happy to advise our clients in the projects that we do with them. But again, I would come back to always using a professional electricians, because they will know this. So I know in Finland, we've talked about this with you, Jake, before, there are a lot of homemade handymen, but that's not necessarily always the way to go.
Yeah, and I mean, to be really fair to the Saas setup, a lot of it is quite plug and play, but there are still connections that need to be done by electricians, and also, the complexities of understanding what type of driver, if you're using LEDs, what type of driver works with that, and if you want a dimming protocol with that, you probably need a different driver, and how much wattage the driver needs to be to power a certain amount of electricity to the lights. And obviously, if you get that wrong, it's an expensive mistake because it will cook the lights, or you'll have to buy a new driver. Or
That's true, and that's where you guys come in, because you know what lights to use where as well, and how to use them, where to place the drivers, and of course the dimming protocols comes down to the customer preferences. Some people just want on-off lighting. Some want to be able to dim it, which I personally would recommend, because then you can have the dimmed down relaxing version when actually using the sauna, but then putting everything on full power when the sauna needs to be clean. for
Protecting the
example.
darkness.
Yes, again.
Yeah, I mean, then there's a few key points there as well. Often on commercial, there are considerations for minimum safe lumen levels. So, anybody who's run a business with a premises, for example, knows that you have safe working light levels, and it can't be so dim that somebody trips over or hurts themselves. Things like cleaning. Something we often see is overlooked, but always recommended from our team is you probably want a different set of lights for cleaning the sauna than you do for enjoying the sauna. And those lights want to be super bright, super visible. You want to be able to see where the dirt is.
Probably a higher color temperature.
Higher color temperature, lighter, brighter.
Yes.
So you can see what needs to be cleaned. And
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another consideration, I suppose, as well, and you've kind of touched on this, but it's worth exploring a little more, is the portfolio that you guys have has different temperature ratings. And I suppose it's important to note that, a sauna is not an isotherm. So it's going to be way hotter above the heater. It's going to be pretty hot on the upper benches. It's going to be quite hot on the middle or lower benches, and at ground level it's not going to be that hot at all unless it's on all day.
This is actually ties in really nicely with what we were saying earlier about electricians, because this is all laid out within the wiring regulations. So across Europe, thankfully, as far as I'm aware, certainly in the UK and Ireland, our wiring regulations have a specific sections. I believe it's section 703.
Nice and nerdy for you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to take your word on that.
If you are getting an electrician to install your lighting or any amount of electrical work in a sauna, just testing them on whether they're even aware that this special section exists is kind of a green flag or red flag, because it lays out the different zones of if it's above a meter, then it has to be temperature safe to above 125 degrees.
Exactly.
If it's within a meter of the
stove,
then you can't actually have electrical appliances apart from the stove in that kind of zone.
No, exactly.
So yeah, there's a lot of niche considerations that are all laid out in kind of British guidance, which I'm not always confident electricians are aware of.
You might be right, yeah, but I would say that the lighting can seem super complicated, even a bit intimidating, but as long as you surround yourself with good partners, such as you guys at Finnmark and the electricians that you guys have used and are proven, it's going to be a fairly straightforward process. One thing I will say, though, about lighting is that the earlier in the project that you start considering it, the easier it will be to realize and the more cost-effective it will be. So, if you build a sauna and it's basically ready and you then start to think about lighting, it's going to be a hassle or it's going to become a compromise of some sort.
Running cables becomes impossible. You have to do it over the surface.
Exactly. So then you're back to the original of the candlelight, which isn't bad, but it's just then you're stuck with that. You don't have any options.
Yeah. I think the LED technology that has come so far in the sauna is something of a revolutionary addition. Certainly makes it much easier with quick connectors to be able to remove and replace, renew or change the lighting.
Oh yeah, and I've seen some of the stuff that you've done with our products, in terms of plug and play, and as I kept saying, you're doing a great job in that sense, because it's really plug and play and straightforward.
Yeah, as straightforward as it can be. But also, this is very refreshing because, when we started a decade ago, the only option was fiber optic or halogen bulbs or whatever. Right? Yeah. Halogen bulbs get very, very hot and are quite unsightly. Those big bulkhead lights that listeners will have seen in saunas, and fiber optics. If anybody's ever worked with fiber optics, they'll know exactly what I'm saying. But it is like it's like weaving a net, a very sensitive net, and it involves quite a bit of skill and takes an insane amount of time. And I mean, fiber optics still have their space, and sometimes we get clients who want a starry sky effect in the ceiling.
True.
Like a Rolls Royce or something. But
still happens.
Yeah, but the reality is the amount of time that takes to, if you imagine, if anybody's ever been fishing, right, and you know how easy it is to get in a tangle with a fishing line, right, then imagine having like 30 fishing lines that you're trying to perfectly secure through it's a nightmare.
It is. Takes man hours.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I would say in terms of fibers, the purpose they serve best is above the sauna stove, because as you said, Max, that's a place where you can't really put electricity according to the law, so you will have to use the fibers instead.
But you have some quite neat solutions on the LED side that can work proximal to heaters as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have LEDs that can work very close to the heater, and by very close, I mean they need 0.5 meter of safety space between the heater and the rest of the sauna space. But then again, using a fiber for the heater itself means that you basically only need one. So you can skip the hassle of the star sky, but you can still have the nice light above the heater, which will highlight the steam rising when you throw the load.
Yeah, and your systems for heater spotlights, which are great if you have a really beautiful centerpiece heater, are exactly that, a simple single fiber optic. So you can remove the fitting if you need to service it or whatever. It operates. It operates just like a spotlight would, but allows you to install it safely and within regulations,
exactly.
Which is super neat.
There you go. Yeah.
And we sort of more and more, this is something I know you're working on as well, we get more and more inquiries for people to be able to customize RGB, red, green, blue lighting in the sauna. Not something that I would do in my sauna, but I do understand, particularly on the red light spectrum, why that's really good to consider. And what we know now about blue LEDs increase preventing melatonin, so making you feel a lot more awake. And obviously ties into the Kelvin conversation we were having before.
Yeah.
And that if you put deeper reddish lights in the evening, it makes you naturally sleepy and sleep better as well. So in terms of setting the atmosphere, that's good. But again, RGB is not without its challenges in the sauna.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, again, as you said, RGB, I understand that some clients want to have it. And now we provide solutions with different colors on the lights. The reason it's taken us this long to launch them is exactly that. We come from Finland, relatively minimalistic country in terms of design, and that includes saunas. So the white light, the warm white light in saunas has always been the go-to for us. But I agree that, the whole sauna, community is growing outside of Finland, and people have different needs, when it comes to the lighting in their sauna. So of course we need to reply to that demand.
We certainly see it with the emergence of the newer sauna cultures, and something we've discussed on the podcast at length with the Norwegians, the Americans, the Australians, that people are riffing on the sauna concept a lot more in these, they do not need to pay homage to a historical tradition, so they can mess around a bit more and have a disco in a sauna or this sort of thing.
And I think that's cool. It's just because it isn't my thing doesn't mean it wouldn't make me happy to see people embracing saunas in their own way. As long as they're doing the sauna, it's awesome.
Yeah. And one thing we're seeing more and more of is in the UK and in the States is the engagement with the German Aufguss-style sauna.
Yeah.
And that's something where the most highest spec Aufguss saunas have these complex...
like theatre lighting rigs.
Is it,
almost.
What do they call them? Systems. DMX.
You're talking about the DMX systems where you're really able to control every
spotlight. It's like concert lighting, basically.
It is exactly, and you can make the light, behave in super complicated ways, if you will. Like it can even react to movement, stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely on another level.
Yeah, I mean the way that those guys overcome the challenges of temperature and humidity is they will install like windows, like double glazed windows in the ceiling, and then everything behind is painted black with a full theatre lighting rig.
So actually, they can use regular lights, but the effect is going to be in the sauna.
But they still have some like Satama, the big one, Satama in Germany. They, I'm pretty sure that's all DMX control on the little spotlights around the perimeter, because you can get like the color changing, but also the sort of a level of independent control. So you can do independent dimming and make it wave and pulse around the room and
absolutely.
It's the same at the Aqua Dens currently. As of this podcast, the world's largest sauna, which we were looking at videos of yesterday, they have spotlights in the floor as well that are all, and strip lighting everywhere that are all rigged into the DMX system.
Yeah.
Now, if you were designing a sauna yourself, and you were thinking, I don't quite have the budget for a dedicated lighting designer to do such crazy things as that.
Which often cost more than the lights themselves.
Yeah.
True.
What would be your like hot takes or like a kind of a guiding principle to get a good result?
Or even better, your father has a wonderful showcase sauna. What does his sauna lighting setup look like?
All right, interesting. So his sauna is in Finnish private standards a relatively large one. Seats 12 people. In terms of lighting, super simple. He has the sauna viva, that means the linear light, under the bench running the whole way. So, and when you have such a wide seat that it can fit 12 people, having that one line of white light under it becomes quite impressive, simple as it sounds. Together with that, he has one spotlight, and it's not even on the stove, because the stove goes almost all the way up to the ceiling of the sauna, so it wouldn't really have the effect you're after. He has one spotlight on the far end of that sauna, and that's basically there to highlight the firewood that you would keep there, and that's it. The rest comes from the stove itself, from the burning wood.
So less is more.
Less is more, and that's, again, I know I keep going on about it, but that's sort of the Finnish way to do the sauna lighting.
Yeah, and I suppose if you're concealing the strips in the benches, I know the spotlights, a lot of the ones that you sell have shrouds on them, so trying to avoid glare, is that the tactic there? Or?
Yeah, exactly. And on the Sauna Plus spotlight, for example, you can alter the beam angle slightly between 40 and 60 degrees. So if you have like a big stack of firewood underneath, you can make the beam a little bit wider, and then if you want to focus more on a certain object, you make it slightly more narrow. But yeah, that's his take on the sauna.
Is there anything you would do differently?
I love having the the hot one fiber optic above the stove. I would perhaps have done a stove that could have facilitated this, because it is cool to see the steam rise when you have light pointed at it. It's a small detail, but you know, it gives that wow effect, which you rarely see in saunas actually.
What I love about the hot one is set up correctly with the with the sort of shrouding, as Max has alluded to. The stove itself can just look like it's glowing.
Yeah.
Because you can't see where the light is coming from. So, you know, and it is very much the Swedes are the leaders in design for museums, right? If you ever get to go to a Swedish museum, phenomenal. And you know, the Danes and the Norwegians and even the Finns, you know, excellent job. Certainly by the UK standard is just we steal everybody's stuff and put it behind glass, right? Floodlight it. But you know, you go to museums in Sweden or in Denmark, and you can be you know, walking down a very dimly lit sort of corridor, and then there's just an artifact just kind of glowing, and you can't see the light source, and it really just makes it pop, you know?
It's beautiful.
And if you do that to the heater, then you get this really beautiful
That's
look.
magical.
Yeah, you don't see the source of the light. You just, you're left with the effect, which is exactly what you want.
And I think again, if you have the ability to dim, you can reduce the global illumination, another buzzword. So that you're not aware of the light source even bouncing from other walls and stuff. So global illumination is useful though if you have a sauna that you want to light quite minimally. Say it's light timber. You can bounce light off the walls to just bathe the whole space in like a wash of light rather than...
Absolutely. So you have a lot of light basically in terms of the area, but you keep it dimmed down. Yeah.
One of my favorite lights, we don't get to specify it that much because they can be quite difficult to install and be involved enough, like you were sort of alluding to, that sauna is often the afterthought on a construction project, and lighting is the afterthought on the sauna project. Is the uplighting floor lights. So you get this, you know, the ability to really like create walkways and accentuate the edges of a walkway. And I really like those, but we don't get a opportunity often to spec that sort of lighting, unfortunately.
No, I get that, but you're absolutely right. It does create a nice effect, and you know, with the narrow beam angles, that the blaze floor is the name of the product, by the way. When you have the narrow beam angles on them, you can create some really beautiful effects. And because they're on floor level, it's again more important to have the IP protection from moisture rather than the heat itself. So you can actually use it in a wide variety of spaces in and around the sauna.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say, you know, the lighting is often the first thing compromised, you know, if you have a sauna project that has gone slightly over budget, for example. But that's just the way it is, you know, it happens. But luckily there are many projects where the lighting is considered at an early stage, and that's usually when it turns out the best and it becomes cost effective in the process as well.
Talking of all the different beam angles and things like this, I know you have spotlights, but there's lots of different ways that you can have them with the different beam angles or deploy them differently. Do you have any material or photos where customers could seek inspiration to actually understand what that looks like if they deployed it in their own sauna?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. At both. Well, I must say, shout out to you guys at Finnmark. The new website looks great.
Thanks.
So that would be a good place to start. But we also have on the saas.fi webpage, we have a dedicated section for the sauna lights, and there we have galleries of all these products. So that's a good place to start if you just want to browse some pictures and get inspired. There's loads of different sauna projects there. Most of them private saunas, but also some commercial ones.
And you guys do a lot of lighting design for commercial and high-end residential in Finland. So, you're not just selling a product, you understand how it should be used and caters for specific projects.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're all about protecting the darkness, but, if a client wants a lot of light, we'll do that too, of course. But, if we get our say, we try to put light where you need it, and then leave some space for shades and shadows as well. Because by having both light and shadows, you essentially make the whole space a bit more dynamic and interesting.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about lighting. Tell us about your, as a Finn, about your early sauna experiences and, how you've seen sauna in Finland change over your lifetime and sauna internationally change as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, as you say, I'm from Finland and so the sauna has been with me forever. One of the most, it's not one particular memory, but it's one particular sauna that I'm particularly fond of, and it's out on my grandparents, because Finland has one of the biggest archipelagos in the world, so lots of small islands, and it's very typical for people to build their weekend houses out on these islands, and so that's exactly what my grandparents did. And of course, after the first small house where you could sleep in came up, second one was the sauna, and that's the one. I'm lucky enough to say that it's remained pretty much unchanged since they built it, and it still stands there. And although within my family we've gone on sort of a sauna building spree lately, and we have more of them than we probably need, that one that my grandparents have out on the island, that's still the best one.
So across the family, what's the count now? How many are you up to?
Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 saunas on 6 people.
Wow.
That's a healthy ratio.
Yeah. And two of them we added quite recently.
That speaks to the Finnishness of wanting to be alone in a quiet sauna by yourself.
That's true. A 12-person sauna is just about big enough for 3 people.
Yeah. Very pro-social.
Yes.
That's good. So what makes your grandparents' sauna so special, and what's it, paint a picture for us. What's that like? So
it's the only place on the lot on the island where you have a view of the open sea. So you just look at the Baltic Sea. Next up is going to be Tallinn, Estonia. So just looking at that while sitting in this relatively small sauna without any running water, but made from logs. So the level of moisture in this sauna is huge, which means that even though it goes up to like 90 degrees, it feels very comfortable. And obviously being out on the island, you have the possibility to do the cold plunge afterwards, which for me, since this was the first sauna I experienced properly, those two go together. Like going into the sauna without having the possibility of a cold plunge almost feels a little bit uncomfortable to me.
Yeah. I often say, it's like having a nice meal without the option of dessert.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't always want dessert, but, it's nice to have the option.
Sometimes it's nice to just look at the dessert menu.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't go in the water in January, but it's
You're
nice
not
to
a big
have the
fan
option.
of Vanto.
No, not that cold. I don't mind cold water, but frozen water,
Mm.
maybe not my best friend.
Yeah, I can
gets
get
cold.
that.
Yeah.
So we've talked a bit about the past, and how do you see the future looking and the present in terms of, what's new and upcoming for Saas? Do you have new products or new ideas or new endeavors that you're doing? And also for the industry as a whole, what's your hot take on where things are going?
Yeah, so in terms of Saas, we just launched a couple of new products. Essentially, they are LED strips, but they are flexible. So say you have some corners, tight spaces in your sauna, these LED strips will help you deal with those specific, dimensions.
So curved benching, or
yeah, exactly.
around the
Curved
end of a barrel,
benches and curved ceilings, whatever you may have, that these will facilitate that. And these are also the products that we now have RGB technology on, so you
Right.
can get the different colors on them.
and they're heat safe up to what?
Up to 100 degrees. So when the Sauna Viva goes up to 125, these are a little less than that, but they make up for it in terms of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the industry and where it's headed, I mean, it's been great to follow the journey of Finnmark, and how you've contributed to the boom that seems to be going on here in the UK with saunas, and it was an inspiration to see the Arc sauna in Canary Wharf. Super cool. I mean, again, an experience that's very far from the traditional Finnish sauna, but one that I found really fascinating. So the sauna boom seems to be on, and not just in the UK, but worldwide, it seems. I mean, their neighbors in the south, the Estonians, they've always been big fans of saunas, and now they are also owning it and making it a proper thing, which I think is super cool to see. The US is waking up to the sauna boom, and I mean, it's a big
way.
country. So
Everything's bigger in America.
Everything's bigger in America. So that's going to be interesting to see what their sort of take on the traditional sauna is going to be.
This will probably end up dating the podcast a little bit, and I often look back on old episodes and think, oh yeah, that's really dated now. But I deal a lot and speak a lot with Americans working on projects, and some of the stuff that these guys are working on is hugely like industry changing in terms of size, complexity,
I bet,
budget. To say everything is bigger, I mean, conversations I've had in the last week of people who are planning to do the biggest X or the biggest this or the biggest,
There you go.
And I'm like, okay, this is, another level. And the thing is, they've got the market for it. They've got the money for it. They've got, the population, the space.
Yeah.
So the US market's not without its challenges. And this is something you guys have to kind of overcome as well, which is UL or SG, SGS certification.
The CE mark doesn't mean anything there, They have their own system, so of course it's always going to be a challenge. But then again, I know this is tacky, but if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's important that the regulations and standards are met. And the good thing, I guess, for companies like yourselves is the bar is already set so high with European standards and regulations, and the performance of your products in a known space to the Finns. It's one of those things where when we talk about lighting and somebody goes, oh yeah, but I found these cheap Chinese spotlights or whatever, and I'm like,
yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yeah, well, they'll be cheap and you'll replace them, and they'll struggle in those spaces, and they don't understand the challenges, the technical and the environmental stresses and strains that having a sauna properly does, as is evident from the average cheap modular sauna that has a car stereo on the side.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay,
exactly.
the Blaupunkt system.
Yeah, exactly. If you want it done cheaply or cost effectively, let's call it that, then do it properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, do it right.
Buy once. Yeah, buy once. Yeah. So okay. And you talk about innovation in that space. Is the US something that you're kind of looking at? I know that we get a lot of listeners from the US market, and they are always crying out for lighting. So will we see Saas Instruments LLC setting up anytime soon?
You will definitely see UL approved SaaS products in the US soon. Yes, yes. It's a process. There's a bit of bureaucracy behind it, but it is happening. Yeah.
Great.
We want to take part in the US sauna boom, and also because there's lots of people with Nordic heritage in the US. So as we talked about, so
the highest population of genetic Finns outside of Finland.
There you go.
Upper
Exactly.
Peninsula, Michigan, and Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yeah, exactly.
All around the Great Lakes.
Yeah. So I do want to be part of that. I want to see what they're going to do with their saunas.
I just still love the idea that Finns, so it's Lutheran Baptists, right? So they were a religious group which was, somewhat disenfranchised with Finland, to put it diplomatically.
Yeah.
Cast out of Finland, and they went to the one place in the rest of the world which is exactly like
Finland. Yeah, Minnesota. Yeah, absolutely.
And even if you go to Minnesota, so Finland is known as the land of 1,000 lakes because it has so many lakes.
Yeah.
And it in fact has many thousands of lakes.
Yeah.
And the number plates in Minnesota just say Minnesota, 10,000 lakes.
There we go.
Everything's bigger.
Everything's bigger. Yeah.
No, that's really positive to hear. You guys will be out there. I mean, some of the other markets that are growing, so you have Norway and you have Japan. Both of those have some quite complicated electrical considerations. Is that something you see as a challenge, or is it quite easy to overcome with the type of lighting you do?
To be honest, the sauna and spa projects that we do in Japan, because we do have them, are for us quite easy. But that's only because the company that we work with there, they sort the paperwork. So we basically deliver products as we would to any EU market, and then they deal with it.
Because they have different frequencies, north and south of electricity, and different voltage setups.
They do, and that's why we don't provide them with the drivers, for example. So we only provide the lighting itself, and then it's up to them to find and source the.
How have you found them with the reception of the Saas Instruments quality? Because the only place I ever worked before this, other than for our parents and some holidays.
I still work for my parents.
You worked in high-end hi-fi.
Yeah, and the Japanese, it was already high-end products, like to a very high quality. The Japanese had their own specification because they're so exacting.
They are. But on the other hand, there are similarities between Finns and Japanese. For example, every time you jump on a Teams meeting with them, it's the only time that the people in the meeting are going to be waiting for you rather than the other way around. They're so punctual, and they're very they respect the way in which we do business and very understanding, and I must say it feels very comfortable doing business with them because yes, they have high standards on quality, but they also take care of you. So and since our products are relatively proven and they don't go wrong a lot of times. There's been no reason for them to doubt us. I'll admit that we've been delayed with one or two of the deliveries, and
it's a long way to ship stuff.
It's a long way to ship, and it does happen. But yeah, it's been a good collaboration, and I would love to do more in Japan as well, because as I said, we do work there, but it could be even bigger.
I feel like if your products can succeed in Japan, then they can succeed anywhere, because it's the quality and well, I can attest to it. With me and my colleague in the any sort of application of tech support, I think I can't name a case with Saas
products.
Yeah, awesome.
There are three other highly visible similarities between the Finnish and Japanese culture. One is linguistically, even though they're very different languages. If you sometimes, we go to Helsinki airport and you hear something over the tannoy and you're like, are they speaking Japanese? And they're like, no, actually they're speaking Finnish. So linguistically, weirdly, sounds similar from a distance.
Yes.
The way that Japanese people and Finnish people have conversations is, I watched an analysis of this recently, is like different cultures when they have a conversation, and this is always an interesting challenge working internationally, is when British people have a conversation, when one stops speaking, the other one should, for a nice comfortable flow of conversation, the other one should start,
continue.
Right? And, in a lot of Mediterranean cultures, there should be an overlap. One person should start wrapping up what they're saying, and the other person should jump in and overlap.
Yep.
And Finns, you finish speaking, then there's a pause, and then the next person starts.
Yeah.
And the Japanese are the same in that respect. And the final one is both of you love lumens.
Yes, that we do. Yeah. Because our beloved Moomin trolls, they began life in the books, of course, and after the books came the TV series, and that one was actually made in Japan.
Yeah, anime series.
Exactly. So yeah. The relationship is very strong when it comes to Moomin. Absolutely.
Slightly Studio Ghibli vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
Very tranquil, very calm.
But I have only good things to say when it comes to doing business with the Japanese and the sauna boom that's going on there. It's great to see.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So if people want to learn more about Saas, they can go to your website, which is
saas.fi, and then we do have an English version of it. So yeah,
that's
very
Saas
easy.
spelled SAAS.
Yes, correct.
You beat all the software as a service guys to that domain.
We did, and obviously it's become a little bit problematic in some instances. But we were there first. I won't even bore you with what it stands for, but yeah.
And then do you have socials?
We do, Instagram, Facebook,
and
YouTube. You name it.
Do you have an @handle, or do you know what you have to type to find that online?
If you go with Saas Instruments, you'll always find it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. This has been
thank
great.
you for having
to the
me.
UK.
Cheers.
Yeah,
It's been great to have
absolutely.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, guys.